very good morning to you all. Welcome to Sunrise Daily. I'm Chamberlain. What's up?
I have a good feeling about this week. The whole team is wearing blue. It's a beautiful one. I'm Kayode Okikere.
Good morning and welcome. I'm Ayo Makinde.
Great to see you, Ayo. Good morning, Nigeria. Welcome. I'm Maupe Ogunyuso from Abuja.
You know, the families of those passengers who were kidnapped on their way to Kaduna. I remember that train ride. They're hoping, when can they ever say good morning to their members, the family members, those who are in captivity as well? Because the narrative out there, not exactly encouraging. Several days they've been in captivity. Many of them have seen certain videos circulating how those who are in captivity, the family members, are being ill-treated. No one can stand this, one must say. But much as the federal government released a statement about this narrative in terms of what's going on and what they expect of the populace, how the authorities are aware of their responsibilities, what is expected of them, what they expect of the media, how they expect certain things to happen, the members themselves have been speaking. They just think that this, what they hear appears or sounds at cross purposes with what they expect. Bottom line, they want results. And they've been speaking as well to this matter. So matters will just go ahead and listen to one of them.
My brother, who was also part of those that are sick, and they informed us to come and pick him. We went on our way. Unfortunately, the government security stopped them and asked them they can't go. How can a government whom we believe should be the one to rescue our loved ones? But unfortunately, we, the families, the relations, all the members, try to do it by ourselves, but we were prevented from taking them back by the government, security. It happens on Friday. There's no issue of paying ransom. They said these people are sick. Come and pick you. We went there. Unfortunately, they didn't allow the people to pass. They said it's an order from above not to allow any person to pass that part to where the bandits were keeping our loved ones. Are we humans after all? Is it not government that's supposed to support? So it's actually, we are disappointed. We are totally disappointed. Since the government has failed, we intend to take this thing upon ourselves to do and get our loved ones out. And believe me, in the last over 100 days, there's no particular interest, serious interest from government, from all quarters, to even help us to get our loved ones out.
Wow, as recent as Friday, he says. But some things appear missing here. It comes across as though, first, is the government actually speaking to the families? Because if it says they were told when they got there that there is an order from above not to let certain things happen, so they don't have information as to what is government's plan or what has been done or what is being done. That's why they feel, look, we need to do something, because any family member will want to do something to get their loved ones back. So, and then not long after that, there's that statement from the government. After that, ladies and gentlemen, don't forget, the government is planning to, they're considering, remember the National Security Council meeting, to ban ransom payment. So, could this all be related? So if this were all the case, from what we've seen, what is the fate of these ones? Have they spoken to the families of these ones? When last did they speak to the families? What is going on here? So they're just lost.
Well, the things that are clear enough, there are other questions, but some things are clear. First is the anguish, the sorrow of the family members. You can hear, from the tone of the family member, just how frustrated they are. March 28th up until this day. I mean, that's what, 118 days. It will be 4 months in a couple of days, 3 days actually. So imagine day in, day out, having to live with this. And then the video surfaces. So we're sure of the anguish of the family members. Also, the state of those abducted. We're sure of their state as well. Seeing that video, I mean, some people couldn't even finish watching that video because of just how harrowing, how painful it is to watch. Really, I wonder how people are taking this on board. And when you talk about the statement from the presidency, you know, it's tricky balancing what's going on with those abducted and then perhaps what's going on behind the scenes when it comes to the thinking of the government, the security agencies. Because hearing family members saying that they've been in contact, the terrorists said they should come get their family members who aren't feeling fine, saying it's not about ransom payment. There's lots of holes to pick in this one. So why will the government say, well, you can't go to get your family members? Is it that government has a superior plan, or is it that government has something in the offing? But as Chamberlain said, it looks like the family members are not in on this because they're essentially saying we're not getting help from government. So why wait and keep waiting 118 days? How about we do something? That's on the one hand, the communication. Perhaps government needs to do better to explain to these family members what is being done so they don't essentially, they're hanging in the balance really. And the second part is a statement from the presidency, and I'm trying to still wrap my head around this. It's actually the last paragraph of that statement released by Mr. Garba Shehu, saying that the president has done all and even more than what is expected of him as commander-in-chief by way of morale, material, and equipment support to the military, and expects nothing short of good results in the immediate. It sounds to me as though, I mean, there's not much more that can be done. I might be wrong, perhaps that's where we need to fill in the gaps, but one thing is sure, those people need to be rescued as soon as yesterday.
And you know, that element about the media not helping to propagate is what kind of got to me.
Oh, yeah.
Because I'm wondering what that means, really. So let's be clear which media or which segment of the media that statement is talking about. Because social media is some kind of media. So is there any way in which the conventional, registered, official media, if I can use the term, is helping to propagate what the social media is talking about? Or are we expected to turn a blind eye to the things that people are talking about in the only space that they have? Media has a responsibility, its own responsibility clearly cut out, and which is to ensure that we hold government accountable. One of the ways in which we hold government accountable is in this area of security, or a lack of it, when we don't have it. On a daily basis, Daily Trust newspaper does this. School children in captivity. Bethel Baptist High School, Kujama, as of today, 386 days, they're still in captivity. It's right there, every day. And even in the part of the system credited to the terrorists that we're talking about now, they said that they're going to sell off some of these people the way they sold off some people from the Chibok abduction in 2014. So are we supposed to keep quiet about that? I don't know. Mark?
Where do you start from? I really I don't know. I don't have words this morning. Where do you start from in discussing this sort of obvious government failure? Where do you start from? As the statement, as I'm reading the statement, as you were also pointing out segments from it, the statement points to the fact that their only crime was that they boarded a train going to Kaduna. This is a train service which the government itself seemed to have been proud of, a service which they provided and which had become an alternative for many because the roads had now become unsafe. And the only crime that these people in the bush today committed was that close to 180 days ago, they boarded this train. And since then, they have not been able to get to their destination. Their family members sometimes have an idea of where they are, but that's it. The last batch of people whom we understand were released paid as much as 800 million naira. 800 million naira, close to $1 billion. I'm trying to imagine how the family members were able to raise that amount of money. Some of them would possibly have had to sell everything, maybe back to square one to be able to raise that sort of money. There are many questions, gentlemen. Don't forget that You know, just a few weeks ago as well, a lawmaker, Honorable Bamidele Salam, took a walk, a single protest. The questions he asked in that protest by himself are the questions that many Nigerians are asking. What is going on with our government? Right now, it would seem that this statement is placing responsibility at the feet of our security agencies. If I'm clear on this, they're talking about the military. Now, they need to tell us very clearly what exactly is going on. Once I had a chance to speak with the Chief of Army Staff when the Army was doing their Army Day celebrations, and this was about one of the only questions I asked him about the rescue of the Kaduna victims. And he said that something to the effect that they didn't have sufficient intelligence. Well, it does appear that there is more intelligence than they're letting on, because if they're getting in touch with their family members are paying ransom, family members are being told to come and pick up sick loved ones wherever it is they're being told to come and pick them up. There is certainly more intelligence than is being communicated. So the question is, what exactly is holding us back as a state? There needs to be clearer communication of the challenges that our military is facing, not just our military, our security agencies as a whole. There needs to be clearer communications as to the challenges that the country as a whole is facing in being able to rescue these people well and alive. Time was, I still remember in this country, when people will be kidnapped, ransom will be paid, but shortly after they'll be hot on the heels of these people who have collected the ransom payment, and they will catch them. They might not get all the money, but oftentimes they get a lot of the money. So what exactly is going on? Is it that we have totally lost it? I don't want to ramble on this morning, gentlemen, because a lot of the questions which you have asked, are the questions I most likely will repeat myself asking. But every time when Nigerians look at these people, they see themselves there. They know that any single one of them, I know how many times I've been on that train, any single one of them could have been on the train. Are you saying that if this, I don't even know what to say. I mean, if this was anybody else, you mean that this is how long it would take to get our people back? A lot needs to be done, and we need to do better by the Nigerian citizens. We need to do more to instill confidence in the ability of the state to be able to rescue its own people from the mouth of terrorists. Gentlemen.
Wow, it is indeed better imagined than experienced, I tell you. Well, we're just going to go ahead and take you right through some of the dailies here today. That is the very first one we're starting with. They pick up on the narrative about the Abuja-Kaduna train attack. Presidency reacts to terrorists' video. Says defense forces not clueless, helpless. Calls on Nigerians to support military as abductors of train passengers flog victims, vow to kill more captives. Kidnap Buhari El-Rufai. So you have all of those associated with that big lead on the front page. The government has a lot of professionals with regard to security, communication, even communication itself. They know that they're not asking, or we're not asking that they, reel out all their plans bit by bit to the families as they were, but some sort of communication needs to go on so that they know that something is being done, as opposed to reading it just like everybody else is. That's Daily Times today.
We'll take a look at Nigerian Tribune this morning with the lead. As Abuja-Kaduna train abductors threaten to kidnap Buhari El-Rufai, why we can't bomb their hideouts. That's a statement from the presidency. We have referred to that statement, but if you want to get more context, that's part of the angles that was given. Page 2 of the Tribune has more details. And this writer says President has done what is expected of him as Commander-in-Chief. So, page 2. Yeah, I mean, different ways to take that on board, really. Now, let's know what you think, honestly, the security situation. You can send us a mail, tweet at us. That's a big one, in fact, not just for the Nigerian Tribune, for the nation this morning. Just a couple of other stories. Under the big picture, there's still politics. Muslim ticket. Atiku attacks Tinubu again. Says his memory may not be what it used to be. So we're in that season, the usual back and forth, the brickbats. You know, it's classic, but you know,
they're
don't
challenging
get distracted.
themselves now.
You know, you come for an interview, let's see you do an interview as well. We know these things, but don't get distracted, right? Yeah, you can latch onto some of them that are issues, but they don't get distracted. Says multiple sources confirm claim on APC flag bearer. Fahimi wants CAN to evolve charter of demands for political leaders. So whatever happened to, do not get into politics, just let's keep religion in our homes and in the religious centers.
Well, you know, well, much as that may be the case, but I like to remind them that they shouldn't forget that, well, Christianity is not a religion, it's a way of life.
There you go.
At the end of the day, I like what Mr. Fashola said. Religion was never in our polity. Well, was it covertly there? Let's keep it where it is, in your homes and in your
It's not mentioned in the
centers.
Constitution?
Exactly.
But when you go for events, political events, they start by praying in both the Christian and Muslim. So, I mean, why do we do that then?
If we all respected what happened, was it in 1995 or which of these confab? Was it to 2014 confab where the prayers was the second verse of the national anthem?
Well, we since moved from that. So if we're already involving the religion, in fact, you hear them call the pastor and the imam and they give this prayer and everybody goes, amen. Or,
what
about a national anthem?
Exactly, that's one of the second verse of the national anthem.
About religion.
You know, so if we already say there is no religion, no state religion, Nigeria is a secular state, maybe we should even understand what's the meaning of the word secular. I'm not going to do that.
So the government authorities should what? Practice what is preached?
It is right there in our national anthem. Right there in our national anthem. The national pledge ends with "So help me God." Come on, isn't that
What about daily
enough?
lives, the insignia, all over monuments, the national symbols, all of those things? You have religious connotations written all over some of those.
And yet we say
what are those things?
And yet we say we're a secular state. We need a confab on that one.
I think we just say when
Guys,
it's convenient.
let's is it really convenient?
Well, that's the Nigerian Tribune this morning.
That's right. Next.
It's convenient for me to take the Nigerian News Direct right now.
Go.
And this is what you have on the front page. Same story, but a different angle. Look at it. Terrorists threaten to kidnap Buhari, El-Rufai, other politicians. Well, it's a threat, so let's see how it goes. As FG declares threat as mere propaganda. I think it's about time we understood the difference between propaganda and communication. They are two clearly different things.
No, propaganda is a type of communication.
It's a type, but is it developmental communication? Propaganda is usually for one particular thing, and after that thing passes, it's dead. It's about time we got up to that. Yes.
But it has consequences. You can't actually say it's dead in the manner of speaking. Because some people, if you get to a certain place through that, and then you're supposed to be there for a certain period of time, by the reason of the fact that you got there based on certain things, the life of that propaganda continues.
That's where the problem is. That's why the difference between communication and propaganda. Communication can evolve. Propaganda can't.
But it's feedback loop, so you sowed that, and it keeps coming. And
how does the person down there know it's propaganda? They hear it as regular information.
Okay.
It's you that can decide.
I don't know, but anyway, that is right there on the front page. And right under the picture on the front page of the Nigerian News Direct, ASU strike, grievances, controversies of interest heighten to push forth NLC Tuesday, Wednesday protest. Whatever that means, find the details on the inside pages of the paper this morning. But it's something that is most certainly concerning. The question I keep asking is, do we have a national ethos for education, for anything at all? Markwe?
Well, look at what Daily Trust has on its front page. Kaduna train, how ransom blockade triggered hostage beating video. Presidency reacts as terrorists threaten to abduct Buhari, VP, others. Federal government's attitude boosting their confidence, as according to security experts. Video, sign of state failure, negative verdict on federal government, as according to another group. Pages 4 and 5 will give you details. You also have a number of other stories on the corner there. Prepare for flood. NIMET tells northeast, southwest states. government policies responsible for Nigeria's high inflation. That's according to World Bank chief. They also have a commentary. Their front page comment is on the new NNPC Limited. NNPC Limited must be new indeed. That's what they're writing on this morning. Let's leave it there for Daily Trust newspapers.
Newspaper next, as INEC moves to turn down its own reports from primaries, tension in INEC, infighting threaten 2023 elections. Akpabio, Lawan may be thrown lifelines. APC, PDP, some INEC officials in underhand moves. Femi Falana expects criminal prosecution of Akpabio and Lawan. Activation of court orders delayed. Pressure on Yakubu to compromise commission. Electoral Act 2022 trampled. We stand by the monitoring report received from our state offices, INEC. Says, Commission not under obligation to publish names of those not validly elected. Wow. So all of that happening right there, you can imagine what to expect from that.
Tension in INEC, infighting.
It's
not a political party, but
wow. So politics has gotten there as well. So the umpire is been trying to drag them into the arena. Well, Mr. and Mrs. or Mrs. just telling Mr. I didn't call you a monkey. I said I won't tolerate any monkey business from you. Mr. sitting at the table with his cutlery and the plate right in front of him says, so why did you serve banana together with my food? Make of that what you will.
Okay.
Don't forget, look at the back page as well. World Championship. Nigeria's relay team smash 30-year-old African record. But
yeah, it's the but. But hey, did you see what Toby Amusa did yesterday? It was just phenomenal. She actually broke the world 100-meter hurdles record.
Fantastic.
Yeah. So hey,
something to cheer from occasionally will just do us some good.
Absolutely. We're not at the World Cup, but we can hold on to some of these wins, right? We'll take a look at the Guardian newspaper next. That's what we have for you this morning. I'll start from the picture on the front page. It shows the boundary between Lagos and Ogun State along the Lagos-Abeokuta Expressway in a state of disrepair. So that's not a small river. That's actually meant to be a road, right, for cars and people to fly. But that's what you have right there.
I don't know.
But take a look at the big story.
If my sincere apologies, Kaude. If a local government system was efficient in that area, would we have what we have? I remember again the comments from the mouth of Mr. Fashola. Again, Mr. Fashola on this. Local governments have phenomenal work to do. One of their functions includes roads, but even if it's a tranche C road.
Exactly. So that's the question. He also said that, I mean, the Ogun State governor wanted to take up a road fix, gave government ultimatum. But he said, well, it's in the purview of the federal government to do this thing. So at the same time, in the same breath, two different communications saying that you can't just come out and say you want to do a road. You have to show us where you get the money from and all that. So it looks like there are hurdles already on the way. And now we've heard this.
I'm not interested
Companies say they want to fix roads and they go to government and government says, this is what you have to do. You're thinking, wait a minute, you know. The big story, consumers firms brace for higher prices amid energy crisis. That's another thing we're grappling with. It's not just security, there's an energy crisis as well as other stories on the front page this morning. I'll leave it there for the Guardian newspaper.
To the Abuja Inquirer today, and what we sanitation team uncovered Abuja's biggest cannabis farm. That's what you have on the lead, as the lead of the paper this morning. And you're wondering what that is about? Well, the story continues on page 3 of the paper this morning, along with a number of other stories. Oh, that story is there. Atiku challenges Tinubu to hour-long debate. Stories on page 12. I'm not even going to get into the middle of these two.
Mampo is coming for you. You took the Abuja Inquirer.
Abuja is the new capital territory, capital city. It was always the capital territory.
You need a Lagos Inquirer.
Over to you, Mark.
Well, I don't know. Be careful how you talk about our city, Ayo. Otherwise, when you come here, we certainly will know how we'll treat you. But look at this. Leadership Newspapers has this one. As terrorists torture Kaduna train attack victims, presidency explains why military can't carpet bomb forests now. Blames rising insecurity on lack of support for military. Okay. 43 train passengers still in captivity 119 days after. Bandits kill 3, kidnap others in Katsina as police neutralize 2 in Kaduna. Gunmen kill 3 policemen. Omoagege's aid in Delta. So a pretty serious one there. Page 4 is where you'll find details of that. And you have a number of other stories here. Surgery, Oshibajo makes quick recovery, thanks Nigerians. Reps summon ministers, others over planned sale of power plants. So that is also there as well. Mass resignation of software engineers disrupts banks' digitization move. So quite a lot is going on there. Software engineers seem to have resigned en masse somewhere. Page 7 will give you all of the details. I understand that the competition that banks have now are the telcos, and that they're in hot competition even for members of staff. So you have quite a lot going on there, especially in the engineering and software department. Well, you might want to flip to page 7 to get more on that. Let's leave it there for leadership.
Yeah, well, Ayo is taking notice now. If he can switch off the street lights, and ensure that when he gets into Abuja.
What about
no
the
CCTV for him too?
Oh, exactly. I was going to ask about the CCTVs.
I have enough CCTV. I have enough TV on my phone. Okay. I'll record.
Take a look at New Telegraph. Terrorists threatening to kidnap Buhari, El-Rufai, top government officials, that you heard already. But at the bottom strip, marketers raise their alarm over adulterated fuel in circulation. Blame artificial scarcity, price hike. In fact, some say that's been on for a while, but it's just coming. It's in the front pages today, but you need to be careful out there, yet again. Well, that wraps it up with a look at some of the dailies here this morning. Don't go away. We're back in a moment. Stay with us.
This is the second meeting in barely 2 weeks since the last National Security Council meeting held, hours after what has been the most brazen attack on the country's correctional facility in the current administration. But during this meeting, the president receives a preliminary report on the Kuje prison attack. It is not business as usual, as the council considers adoption of several resolutions, as announced by the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice.
The government is looking at what measures to take in terms of addressing, bridging, and blocking associated source of funding, including payment for ransom, and indeed the mining activities, and the possibility or otherwise of suspending for the time being mining activities are being considered as well, banning the motorcycles, for example. I believe the component, or perhaps the number of people that could be using the motorcycle in Nigerian state may not be up to 20% of the Nigerian population. So if the 20% of the Nigerian population is called upon to now make certain sacrifices for the purpose of addressing a challenge, a security challenge that is all-pervading, affecting over 200 million Nigerians, I think no sacrifice is big enough.
He also explains that investigations on terrorist financiers are still ongoing.
Anything investigation is indeed a work in progress, and prosecutions arising therefrom are being indeed carried out, are being conducted. So what I'm saying in essence, the fact remains that there are certain investigations have taken place, and then some of the investigations have been concluded, and as these investigations are being concluded within the context and spirit of work in progress, charges are being made before the court, and then these cases are being taken.
The president had in March 2021 imposed a no-fly zone over Zamfara state in a similar bid to end banditry. The Minister of Interior, apparently appalled, disclosed that there was sufficient intelligence, but not much was done to prevent it.
Sufficient efforts at intelligence were made. But unfortunately, those of you who accompanied me when I visited the place will show that I said very clearly that we had some problem with the will to act. Whoever was responsible for the failure of defense and security and the breach of that institution or facility will face the consequence.
The ministers did not reveal how long investigations will take, nor when the resolutions considered would be implemented. From the presidential villa, Gloria Umezuke, Channels Television News.
Welcome back. Well, yeah, just to get some reactions from what you just heard, the National Security Council's meeting, the briefing, which we all heard. So we've got three, as a matter of fact, to weigh in on this matter. We've got Mr. Ken Maduako, who is the representative of Complete Motorcycle Traders and Importers Association, as well as Austin Jidofo, who is the president, Motorcycle Assembling Manufacturers and Importers Association of Nigeria. Gentlemen, good morning. Thank you for joining us today on the program.
Good morning. You're welcome.
Well, you heard that briefing from the National Security Council meeting, how the kind of steps they intend to take. They're given the reasons, the security implication of all of this concerning terrorists. So, so for you, is this not a good way to go?
I don't think it's a good way to go. It's never a good way.
Why?
Because if we are to go by their reasons, that is because of security problem in the country and security situation. That is why they want to ban the motorcycle. They have to rethink and put other things in place. It's not just about banning the motorcycle, but other implications. Because the motorcycle is a business that has a chance of so many things on the line. When you said you want to ban motorcycle, I've never seen anywhere or in any country anywhere that such thing happened. But if you want to do it in Nigeria... I don't
understand. Anywhere that what happened?
Any country in Africa that have banned motorcycle completely.
What do you mean? There are states in Nigeria that have banned it.
Yes, but not everywhere in the states. There's some restricted areas. You can't ban it everywhere.
Some states don't even have it at all.
Please, can you name?
Isn't that right?
Can you name one? I don't think there is any.
You don't think there's any state that says no?
No.
We don't want any motorcycles in our cities.
In this country, sometimes we say things that is impossible. For saying sake, we have said that, but it's not happening. When you go to that state, you find out it's only in some restricted areas, not everywhere in the state, because there is no way you can handle it. In Nigeria, in every state in Nigeria today, there are still serious rural areas in that state. And those rural areas, some areas in those states, there is no motorable road in some areas.
So when you say they should put certain measures in place, they have tricycles. Isn't that an alternative? So what's wrong with saying no more motorcycles, but they are tricycles? Those states that banned it, look, there will be tricycles, but no motorcycles.
Okay, let me give you, for example, when you talk about tricycles, it's still this same thing of two people from one family. But in some areas, there are areas that tricycles cannot even go to, cannot even enter. For example,
I thought it's about you saying there should be an alternative. So now it's not just about the alternative.
I said they can talk about bounding motorcycle, but there are things you need to put in place before you talk about that.
Which is an alternative.
Which is an alternative.
Is tricycle not an alternative?
No, 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 no.
It's not an alternative.
It's not. Because there are some areas that tricycles cannot even enter. You know, those of us that live in Lagos...
But it's the same thing. There are areas that motorcycles don't also go to.
But that is the last resort that goes to the end. Because when you talk about, those of us that live in developed and urban places, we say all these things because we think we think it's possible because of where we found ourselves. What of the people that lives in the villages where there is no motorable road? Tricycle cannot move there, motor cannot move there. How do you want them to move?
No, the question that my colleague is asking is it that there are states in Nigeria that have not completely banned the use of Okada?
Yes.
There are states that have completely banned them. Whether or not they exist, that's another thing altogether. That's the conversation he's trying to have with you.
That is what I'm saying. Those areas that was banned, those areas that they banned motorcycle, or those states, they said they have banned motorcycle. Yes, they said they have banned it in that state. But still...
They didn't say they banned it. They banned it.
They banned it,
Rivers
yes.
State, Kano State, to mention just two. Okay. The fact that they exist in those states does not mean that they were not banned, that the ban was reversed. It was because people just refused to abide by what government said.
This is one of the things that baffles me in this country. We say things that we know is not possible, and we just say it for saying sake. If you go to Kano today, Kano have the highest number of Okada riders.
So if the government, for instance, decides...
So the government
just one second,
to TV and
just
say,
one second, just one second, sir. If the government decides at the time and say, okay, there's a clampdown on all these bikes because they have been banned, and they go, and harvest all of them and crush them, is it against what government has said? Is that anti-people?
It's not anti-people because you said you have bound it, but it's anti poor people that cannot be able to afford the life you are forcing them to live. Is anti-human feelings for those people that are not in that level.
Is this about saving your business?
Not really, but it is part of it, because the issue of banning motorcycle in Nigeria, this is the first time the critical stakeholders are talking about it. We have not come to the national television to discuss about this.
What do you mean critical stakeholders? States are not critical enough?
No, I mean the business people that are involved in the business. I'm talking about the traders, the importers, the assemblers. This is the first time we are talking about it. We used to hear about state governors banning motorcycle in some areas in the name of insecurity.
You don't believe it?
No, why? No, we believe in what they are doing, but then we see that it doesn't work. That they said motorcycle is the cause of the insecurity, and we find out that the security there is increasing every day, whereas they have replaced with tricycle. Well, so what I'm saying is that it is not as if the federal government cannot borrow the leave from what the state governors have done in their various states by banning motorcycle in places they felt bandit is disturbing there, to give it a trial, if that should solve the problem. But to wake up and say you are banning motorcycle in the entire country, you look at it as if they didn't think about it very well. Because, like my friend said here, no country in the world, I'm not only talking about West Africa, have woke up and said they are banning motorcycle.
But which country?
No, let me come. Including America, there is motorcycle.
So the question is this: which country in the world has built an effective transport system based on commercial motorcycles?
The type we have here.
Commercial motorcycles, not personal motorcycles.
Every country have commercial motorcycle. Every country have it. It depends on your choice.
Okay.
The way you want to go by.
So the US, you said, do they have commercial motorcycles?
If you stop motorcycle,
of public transport.
if you have motorcycle there and you want to drive or go by motorcycle,
commercial motorcycles where you flag down a motorcycle.
Remember what we are arguing here is not only about commercial motorcycle.
That's
the
why
government is talking about banning complete motorcycle.
No, we'll build it up. So the question I asked is, which country in the world built an effective transport system based on commercial motorcycles?
Let's use the country in West Africa.
Is there any country in the world?
Wait, let's use the West Africa that Nigeria is the major supplier of motorcycle and motorcycle spare parts to all the West Africa. Here is their Japan, here is their China, here is their Taiwan.
I think you're pointing to a failure of the transport system. That is why motorcycles come in. To fill that gap, that failure which we have seen. And we can talk about bad roads, we can talk about hinterlands, people trying to get access there. So essentially, it is as a result of the failure of the transport system that we have motorcycles.
No,
and that's the point.
It's not as a result of failure of the transport system that we replace with.
But that was the point you made, that some people can't, they need to get to rural areas, the roads are bad. Those are the points you made.
That contributes also.
That contributes. Motorcycle. What we are discussing here is that the federal government is saying about insecurity. Don't deviate.
Okay, no, you
talking
actually
about
said
insecurity.
no nation
We are not
has
talking about transportation here. We are talking about the motorcycle contributes the insecurity we are having in this country. Right. And so we want to deal with the issue.
That's noted.
Is it motorcycle? Which we know that it can contribute only 6 or 5% on insecurity.
Okay.
The rest is motor.
This was in response to the point you made.
Of banning any vehicle in Nigeria.
This was in response to the point you made about as any country banned motorcycle. And this point is about, you talked about commercial motorcycles helping people reach their locations and all of that. But back to the point now. So the government has not said we're banning motorcycles across board. They just said it's a consideration. And I'm sure you're aware of that. Yes. That this is still a consideration.
I want to cut to their conscience.
Okay, good. So there's no blueprint on whether or not they will ban motorcycles across the nation, whether or not they will choose specific locations, whether or not it will be commercial motorcycles that will be banned, or a certain level of motorcycles that ceases. But when you have to choose between insecurity, and you've seen some of these attacks, some of these terrorist attacks, the kidnappings, the attack on Kuje, and you hear that these terrorists come in droves with motorcycles, dozens, sometimes they even put the figures at hundreds. I'm trying to ask a question.
I want to ask you a question on this now.
You can't ask a question while I'm asking a question. Okay. Pardon me, I'm trying to land. So when you hear those reports, how do you weigh it? Are you providing a solution to government, saying, don't go this way, this is what you should do instead? Because you talked about alternatives. So is there an alternative for government?
Look at it here. If bandit is disturbing with motorcycle in North, it is not so in South. So you don't wake up and say motorcycle is being used to do banditry in North, because all the states have their peculiarity in insecurity. I hope you understand. So for government to say that they are using motorcycle to do banditry in North does not mean that we're not suffering our own insecurity in the South, which is used by vehicle.
Do you have figures?
I hope you understand what I answered now.
Hang on a minute. Do you have documents or figures to support your claim? Because this is an outcome of a National Security Council meeting we're talking about here. So they have huge security considerations.
As I'm talking to you here,
do you have counter information?
A letter has been written to the Minister of Interior, the Attorney General of Federation, the Senate President.
With what? With facts?
With facts and figures.
That
those, even in the state government, in various states in Nigeria that are banned it, the insecurity is still there. So that's not the problem.
No.
So the facts again is that
what I asked is, could you hang on a minute?
Wait, let me finish. Let me tell you the facts there inside that letter. Inside that letter, the facts there is
which letter? From who to who?
from the association.
Which association?
You've just mentioned it.
There are two separate ones.
Yes, the
Which
two associations. They have written to all these agencies for them to know the implication
so
on,
what
on economy. If Nigeria hosts the highest supplier of motorcycle spare parts and complete motorcycle to all these West Africa, they come in here with foreign exchange.
See, the question is,
okay,
you said you want to give me...
Many banks will close because of that.
Can you hang on a minute? You said you wanted to give us facts and figures to show that what they are considering, that motorcycles helps aid terrorism, and then they want to also do certain things to stop terrorism growing and financing. So you say you have contrary figures to show that banning motorcycles, commercial motorcycles, does not help that cause. What is the figure you have?
Yes,
you will after he does, after he answers.
The figures we have there is that
you sent to them. What were
that
the
we
figures?
sent to them that before now, we are aware that many state governors have banned motorcycle in their various states as regards of insecurity that's being used with motorcycle. And we are saying it is not so now to prove, because those states are still suffering on high level of insecurity.
What do you mean by high level? What's the figure?
The figure there is that before.
What was the figure?
When they ban motorcycle, when they ban motorcycle from operating in that locality because they said it's motorcycle that caused it, we didn't react. We just want to
That's not the
what
issue. What was the figure before the banding? What was the figure after the banding?
It is the percentage you are going to check. The percentage of insecurity.
Us. You say you
so
wrote them.
If security is about 10%, with that time, in that time they ban it, now it's almost 30 to 40%. And what caused it? There's no motorcycle running there.
Maybe you can be specific with those areas, those states, because you have to.
Or maybe, have it.
Okay, so which of the states or which of the areas?
Check for example, the one they banned at Imo State.
Give us rivers. What's the figure in rivers?
The river state does not have motorcycle in some areas, apart from rural areas, because you cannot ban motorcycle completely. Go there today, there's insecurity.
What's the crime rate in the areas that they ban you? The
security
crime rates were specific to motorcycles.
No, you are getting it wrong. You said motorcycle will not be.
You don't understand. Did you get my question? There's a terrorists use motorcycles, commercial motorcycles, for their activities.
Where?
And then it also contributes. Would you let the questions come in for a minute? So if the Security Council says, look, for what we've seen, we think that banning commercial motorcycles will reduce some of these challenges. And several states have already taken this decision. So
does it work?
We've seen the crime rate. And so this is one area. And even not just crime rate, the accidents and some of the causative factors of some of these things are cycles. So do you have contrary figures to show that?
We have. Look at our contention there. We're not even saying that federal government...
What do you have?
Wait. We're not even saying that federal government cannot ban
You're not
in the areas... The figures we have there is that before now,
why didn't you did you come with a letter?
You have 10% of increase of insecurity in such areas. Now, as I'm talking to you, why are we still battling on insecurity in Nigeria?
Look,
that's the question.
You're not addressing, you're circling around the issues. Why did you come with the letter that you wrote?
We have letters. When we finish, we'll give the letter.
What's the point? So the viewers will understand your point. Because
okay, are we going to read it here?
What do you say to that?
We have letters.
I need to give you my own view. It's not about protecting a business.
But it sounds like it's about you saving your business.
It's part of it. Because bank is involved.
So you're not even on the same page.
Let me, it's not about saving business.
But many people are going to be off.
I think at my level, I have so many other business I do. So even if the motorcycle is no more coming into this country, I am not bothered. It won't affect me, neither will it affect my children. But in a situation like this, you look beyond yourself. You look beyond what you think. You know, in this business, when you talk about motorcycle business, it looks as if it's the people importing motorcycle. Or you look about, it's about the people selling the motorcycle. But no. When you ban motorcycle, you look at the farmers in the rural area where government did not provide any road for them. The only means of bringing their crops out from the farms is that bike, because there is no road. You look at the people living in Ebonyi State, where there is no road at all. You look at the people living in far place in Abia State, where there is no road. You come to Anambra, you look at people living in Obiofia, Newish, and the rest of them, where there is no road. Let me land. I'm going to give you everything about it, including the security.
You know we don't have all the time.
I know, I'm rushing it. When you look at it, you find out that when you say you have banned the motorcycle everywhere, you have cut off those people and add more to their problems, including the mechanics, the laborers, the spare parts sellers, and whatever. You have thrown all of them out to the society. Empty-handed, what do you expect? Then on this security, as you said, I want to ask, in Abuja, motorcycle has been bound there for long. How comes more than 200 motorcycle entered into Abuja and went to Kuje prison when it's bound not to enter there? Where are the security agents that allow those motorcycles to pass freely, unchallenged, and went to that place? In Kaduna State, let me finish. In Kaduna State, motorcycle has been bound in the main town of Kaduna State. How comes motorcycle went to airports to block the flight? Even if you ban motorcycle in Nigeria, I'm giving you an excuse. I'm trying to give you clear distance. Even if you ban motorcycle in Nigeria today, that motorcycle cannot be coming in through the seaport or any other way. What if the bandits now drove it from Cameroon border, as they have been doing, and still come in and do what they want to do?
So your point is, because perhaps the authorities did not enforce, or there are maybe one or two slips with the enforcement of the ban, it should be unbanned. So that to you constitutes the fact that that's the reason why it should be unbanned? That's your point?
That's not my point. When you say you are bounding motorcycle in main cities like Lagos, in main cities like Abuja, in main cities like Oka, Anambra, and the rest of them, nobody is agreeing that. So, but you can't say you are bounding it everywhere in Nigeria. You are going to throw millions of Nigerians into deeper problem.
Well, government hasn't said they're banning it everywhere. I think it's important to keep reiterating that. But in areas that we've seen the ban, in Lagos, for example, where there's been ban in certain areas, how much has that affected your business?
No, we don't have problem with it.
Okay, it has not affected the demand for motorcycles.
When I want to talk here, I told you it's not about me.
Okay, but you said that it's also about the business.
I said if it is banned in some places, in some places in states, it's not a problem with us. Let them ban it and see the good effect or bad effect. But the issue is that banning it entirely in the whole country is what we are saying is.
Now let's imagine, for instance, I mean, it's not just about business for you. I'm sure you both are equally concerned about the insecurity challenges that the country faces.
Sure.
Now, you have also heard the contribution of the use of motorcycles by those who perpetrate these crimes, this insecurity, right?
Yes. In the north.
Beg your pardon?
In the north.
In the north, okay. So let me even ask you, in the event that you are called to a table and say, look, guys, these are the challenges that we are having. This particular kind of vehicle is being used so prominently in fostering these things, especially in these hinterlands, because a sizable number of insecurity has been in the local areas. What would you be saying to governments?
Good. For example, now in Anambra State, Sienna, Hilos, and what is this?
Lexus.
Toyota Lexus, and the other Toyota Highlander. They are the major vehicle that the Onongo men use every day. Is government going to come up today now and say they are going to ban those vehicles?
Anambra is not in the
north. Is this figure from the police? Or
yes. Yes. It's everywhere.
So they say that these are the vehicles.
Yes, that's their vehicle. These 4 vehicles.
So how many did the police say have been used so far?
Many. Many.
Did the police say many? Or
Even
yesterday,
yesterday, police recovered in Ehala 1 Hilos, 1 that Highlander, the Lexus, and the distance.
Are these in the areas? Are these in the areas that are not motorable?
I mean, this area now.
These ones that you've given examples.
They are motorable.
That's the point that I'm making. I'm asking you as someone who deals with motorcycles, not as a car dealer, as a motorcycle dealer, and government calls you and says, these are the challenges that we're having, this is why we're having these challenges. What would you be telling government?
We will tell government.
I'm asking him. Just 1 second. I'm asking him.
The advice I will give is the states, if you know the states where they are using this motorcycle to do those things, you ban it in that state. You don't ban it everywhere because it's not being used in the east, neither is it being used in the west. That's the point. It's being used in some states, few states in the north.
Gentlemen, hang on a minute.
Some states in the north is peaceful.
Hang on. We have Mr. Austin Isabel, former AIG of police. He joins us virtually. Good morning, and thank you for joining us on the program today. Well, this is a decision that the government is considering taking. They've said there will be, there'll be some of those who ought to bear with them about this. So, haven't been in the service. What's your impression about this government's plan?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chamberlain. I think the proposed decision by the federal government to ban motorcycles all over the country is not a very good decision. The government can ban the use of motorcycles in all the state capitals, but they should leave the rural areas alone, because in the rural areas, you don't have good roads, and most of the roads are not motorable. So the ban should be limited to the state capitals all over the country.
Okay, so could you give us the perhaps security implication of some of this? Because government says this is contributing largely to terrorism activities, and they want to see how they can nip that in the bud.
Okay, the government supposed to have conducted an investigation as to why majority of people are going into Okada business. They should do that first. Many Nigerians are going to the Okada business because there are no jobs anywhere. There are no jobs anywhere. So the Okada business is what I will say it as it is a last resort for unemployed Nigerians, especially university graduates. Those involved are mainly university graduates. So there are no jobs. The best bet now is to buy a motorcycle and be using it for commercial purposes. So the government cannot try to solve insecurity in the country and at the same time promoting insecurity. When you ban you are into it, which will not help the cost of security when people are not employed. So the ban should be limited to the township, that is the state capitals, and not the rural areas, because majority of our rural roads are not motorable. It is only motorcycle that can ply those roads. So that is my...
Well, we understand, we understand that relatives of the Abuja-Kaduna train attack at the moment have picketed the headquarters of the Ministry of Transportation in Abuja following the release of a video by the bandits yesterday. The relatives who occupied the main entrance, as you see there, to the ministry are asking the federal government to take steps that will ensure the release of their relatives who were abducted on the 28th of March 2022 at Katari village. So this is the scene at the moment at the headquarters there. So that's what you see right there, which some of the images we also spoke about in the opening sequence concerning the relatives of those who have been kidnapped, the kidnapped victims themselves, some of the images you saw. So we'll get you more details on that one as we get them. Well, gentlemen, we have to thank both of you for coming on. We've had Ken Madwako, who is a representative of Corporate Complete Motorcycle Traders and Importers Association, as well as Austin Jidofor, who is the president, Motorcycle Assembly Manufacturers and Importers Association of Nigeria. Gentlemen, thank you for coming on today. We will be back in a moment. Don't go away. Welcome back. Well, just before we get to His Excellency, let's wind down with Mr. Aisaba, former AIG of Police. Now, this other narrative about the kidnapped victims of the Abuja-Kaduna train, they've been speaking out about it. The government has put up a statement concerning how they feel the president has done more than enough of what is required of him. The security agencies know what is expected of them. But at the moment, members are still in captivity. What is your impression about how to go about it, especially when people think this is a security failure? Ms. Aisaba, that's for you.
Very much, Mr. Chamberlain. Yes, thank you very much. My name is Ambrose Aisaba, not Austin Aisaba. Thank you. That train kidnap is an unfortunate incident. I think the problem is lack of intelligence. When you want to fight insecurity, you send in the Nigerian security architecture. So that for the government to concentrate on that, the better for the country. Because without intelligence, intelligence community are not viable enough, and they are not viral also enough. So the government should concentrate their attention on that area.
All right, well, we apologize for the quality of the audio. Mr. Ambrose Aisaba, former AIG of Police, was trying to get his point across about the challenge with security with respect to rescuing the kidnapped train passengers for the Abuja-Kaduna train ride. We do thank you, Mr. Aisaba, for your time today. Well, we'll move on now to the next item. As you may have seen there, we're joined now by His Excellency Dave Umahi, Governor of Ebonyi State. He joins us virtually this morning. Good morning, Your Excellency, and thank you for joining us on the program today. We're starting off.
Good morning, Chamberlain.
Okay.
Good to be on your program.
Thank you. Well, let's start off with this matter about Ebonyi South senatorial election. There's a lot of hoopla about what's going on, what's happening, how did all of this happen. So if you could give us your impression about what the crux of this matter is, because at the moment, the information out there is that the court says there has to be fresh election. So tell us about that. What is actually going on here?
Chamberlain, thank you very much. I decided to appear on this show just for three key issues. One is to throw light on this Section 115 of the Electoral Act for the benefit of Nigerians. Second one is to correct a channel. They have corrected themselves where they say court disqualifies Dave Umahi for Ebonyi South senatorial zone. And three, to assure channel that I'm not here to demarcate my subject. So by every means, I'm not, I'll try as much as possible not to demarcate my subjects because they are my treasures, as far as leadership is concerned. So the fact remains that I have not seen the court judgment. I think it may be available today, but I've asked those who went to court, and I've spoken to the ANEC lawyer that was in court, and the ANEC lawyer said two things: that the court ordered for fresh election, and that I was never disqualified. So this is very important. And what really happened in the court? I think what happened in the court by the judge cancelling the election of 9th of June may not be the fault of the judge. The judge made use of the evidence before him. The lawyer went to court because INEC did not publish my name as submitted by the party APC. And so the lawyer went to court on my behalf, within the 14 days that the publication of INEC came out. And so to compare INEC to do that. And then along the line, even a PDP from my senatorial zone, who is a senator now, joined the suit. And I say he's been very ignorant of the law. And the person that came second in the first senatorial primary, also joined the suit, my sister Anna Gomez. And so the lawyer raised objection that Section 285, subsection 9 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria makes it clear that those people joining, that their suits are status barred. And what is his opinion? The opinion is that the subject matter is the election of 9th of June. And from 9th of June to the 20th of July when they joined, it's more than 14 days. Because the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria says that, and I read, it says, notwithstanding anything to the contrary in the Constitution, every pre-election matter shall be filed not later than 14 days from the date of the occurrence of the event, decision or action complained of in the suit. And I think the subject matter is the election of 9th of June. That is the subject matter. And that event occurred on the 9th of June. And that's what the lawyer fully relied upon. And he did not, counterclaim when they joined the suit. I think that is where the mistake came from.
A lot of people may have been, focused on national matters, the presidential primary in the APC and all of that, and didn't catch exactly what played out, or what has been playing out in Ebonyi State regarding this senatorial race. And you have talked largely about, the primaries. There was one in May, the first one, and then there was from your party asking that, we need to do it again, which is the one you're referring to, June 9th. So regarding the decision of the court, did the court uphold your candidacy for that June 9th primary, which you won? Did the court say, well, yes, you indeed won it, or not?
The court relied on the evidence, before the court. And like I told you, my lawyer relied on Section 285, subsection 9 of the Constitution to say, look, this is, an academic exercise in futility because there are cases, both the PDP that joined and the person that came second in the first primary, that there are cases where status barred. And then what is the situation? The situation is that somebody won, in the first primary, which they did. And section 33 of the Electoral Act, first of all, section 31 talks about withdrawal of candidates. An aspirant is not a candidate. An aspirant is not a candidate. A candidate is somebody who has been declared a winner of a primary election by the party and the name submitted to INEC. And INEC confirms, it's only INEC that confirms that a candidate is indeed a candidate. And so when the first person that won in the first primary withdrew, according to section 31, and then section 33 says that you will hold a fresh election. And that's that fresh election that took place, on 9th of June.
Right.
And INEC was duly notified, and INEC monitored the election, and INEC submitted report. And so what the person that, because this person that came second in the first primary election, has no case. The Constitution, the Electoral Act did not make mention of anybody coming second. It said, where a candidate withdraws, that there should be fresh election. And so that Electoral Act envisaged that the party should choose the best. Because if the Electoral Act envisages that the second person should come on board, it would have said so, but it wasn't said it should be fresh election.
So I just wanted to be clear.
And that's exactly what the party did.
Right, so I just wanted to be clear on the decision of the court on that June 9th primary. So essentially the court did not uphold your candidacy from that June 9th primary. Essentially it said there should be another primary which will now select the eventual candidates or the substantive candidate of your party.
Yes, two things the court said. From account of those who were there, I can't quote the judgment because I've not seen it. But one thing they said is that I believe that my sister Anne misled the court. She lied under oath that she did not withdraw because she withdrew. And what she didn't know is that all the places she went in the course of withdrawal, they all had cameras and they captured her. And this is, her withdrawal letter, which she submitted to, INEC, submitted to the party, and the party, has given us, true certified copy. So by going to do an affidavit to the court that, one, she didn't know about the rescheduled primary, two, that she did not withdraw, she withdrew twice. And the documents are all there, and we have the true certified copy. So she lied under oath and misled the judge in believing that she did not withdraw, and as such, she did not, she was not notified. But the consequence of that is that she lied under oath, and the consequence of that is that she did not just withdraw from a particular primary, she withdrew from all primaries, in 2023. But the court says, look, do not exclude them. And you can also take new people in reconducting the primary. So that's what happened. So the court nullified the election of 9th that produced me and said there should be fresh election. And the first two people, notwithstanding that two of them had withdrawn, should be allowed to join, and that any other new person is also allowed to join.
So does that then, has the court taken any decision on what you just said about her withdrawal? Has anything been done about it by the courts?
Because it was not, our lawyer did not challenge, her counterclaim. Our lawyer relied on the fact that her suit was status bar. But when the judge did not consider that section of the Constitution, which our lawyer submitted, that our case was status bar by reason of section 285 of the Constitution, subsection 9. So that's the real mistake for me by the lawyer, because for me, he would have also claimed, her counterclaim. So that's where the problem of this is, because the election of 9th is perfect, and all the documents are there and are all valid. The INEC monitored it. Let me throw light on this section 115, because that's the real reason why I'm here.
Yeah, Your Excellency, we'll go to that section.
I was very shocked.
Your Excellency, pardon me, we'll go to that section in a minute. But does it then, because the impression out there now is that since your lawyer made a mistake, and since the judges have to act based on what is presented before them, no decision has been taken on what you just spoke about, her lying under oath. The court is not aware of that as of yet. So the substantive decision now is that your candidature was not upheld. Isn't that the way it stands at the moment?
Yes.
So
yes.
On what grounds then can you say that you were not disqualified, since it's a mistake from your lawyer?
Disqualification is different from nullification of a primary election. Disqualification is totally different from nullification of a primary. When you say disqualification, it means that you are not qualified to contest. But nullification of a primary means that that primary is null and void.
Okay, so it's a use of that word, but at the moment, your candidature has not been upheld by the court. So talk to us about section 115 then.
Before I go to before I talk about section 115, I wouldn't say my lawyer made a mistake. No. My lawyer was convinced that by citing section 285 subsection 9 on the issue of statute bar of the counterclaim, that he was sure to win the case, and that there was no need, laboring himself to also counterclaim her counterclaim. So that is the issue. But, the judges are always right, and so whatever is the case, I commend the judge very highly for the decision, and nothing has gone wrong. But I see the hand of PDP, the senatorial candidate of Ebonyi South, who joined the suit out of desperation. And somebody who is a lawmaker who does not understand the Electoral Act that they made, not knowing fully well that you cannot, be a party to an election you did not contest. Even looking at this case very, very well, even the APC person should not even challenge the election of 9th of June, because she was not party to the election. But all the same, I'm not a lawyer, but the Constitution and the Electoral Act is, there for all of us to read and understand.
So, Your Excellency,
there are a lot that should be going for me as far as that is concerned. So,
okay, so before
I'm not worried, because
does that mean that if your candidature is not upheld, how are you going to participate in the fresh election within 14 days?
You're putting another interpretation.
No, we're just trying to understand the situation.
The crux of the matter, the crux of the matter is that the election that produced me was nullified by the court. That, opportunity was not given to all the, like Anne, who came second in the first primary. But the Constitution, the section, the section of the Electoral Act, said that you have to reconduct where the winner of a primary election withdraws, that you have to reconduct, and then that reconducting the decision does not, give INEC, that 21 days, because a process is on, and the process of primary election, and INEC has been duly notified by the party, that conforms to that 21 days. Now, going to the Electoral Act, where this thing says in section 31 that where a candidate withdraws, and then in section 33, then that you have to, what you need to do where a candidate withdraws in section 33, that you have to within 14 days. And that's what the party did, that within 14 days they complied and notified INEC. And INEC came and they observed the election. So now, the judge relied on the lie told by Anne by saying, look, I was not aware that the candidate has withdrawn. And it's not for you to be aware, because you have to rely on the Electoral Act. And so the party, published in the constituency, look, there will be another election on 9th. And that election held. And the same Anne, incidentally, was in the party secretariat when that decision was taken. And there were cameras everywhere that captured her even when she was signing. And so for me, she lied under oath. At the APC in Ebonyi State, they have taken it up to sue, to say, look, you lied under oath by going to sue affidavit. And again, she also lied by saying that the first primary election, there was no problem. She submitted a petition alleging that there was a disruption of the election by security agencies. And in the affidavit she submitted, she said there was no problem with the primary. She challenged the first primary and said that the person that won did not. But in her affidavit now, she said there was nothing wrong with that primary and the person, validly won. So that is this thing. But like I said, I would not demarcate my subject, and I can't join issues with her. We obey the court order. But the court did not disqualify me. The court says that there should be a rerun. And both of them, whether they have withdrawn or not, should be given the opportunity to also try again. Well, that's the judgment of the court from what I heard from those who were in court. I have not seen the judgment.
Okay, well, we reached out to her to get clarification on all of these matters that you've spoke about, but she declined comment at the moment, so we don't know if she'll change her mind on that one. But, Your Excellency, we'll go to break. We'll return because there's some areas we'd like you to shed a lot more light on, which was still not clear at the moment, even from the point of law, but that will be when we return. Don't go away.
Thank you for staying with us. Well, Your Excellency, interesting conversations that we've had so far. And one of the questions that comes to my own mind, about this whole thing is, when you say, let's just be clear. You haven't seen the judgment. We haven't either. But I just want to be clear. From what you have heard and, from what you have said, is it a call for fresh elections that the court has asked for or a rerun? Because, there are implications to the two.
Thank you very much. That's a deep understanding of the matter. The court pronounced rerun, fresh election, and that's what the Electoral Act Section 33, also specified. It say, rerun. Fresh election.
There are those who are wondering if it's a rerun, then your candidature is absolutely obliterated. There is no space for yourself to be a part of that election. Is that something that concerned you? As you said, you haven't seen the judgment, so we're quite clear. Go ahead, Your Excellency.
You're out of order. I've told you that I told you the Electoral Act says fresh election, and you are still dwelling on rerun. And even if you say rerun, how do you mean that I'm out of the context?
I'm wondering, were you a part of the previous election, the previous senatorial election?
I think there is a need for us to read the Electoral Act very well. The Electoral Act Section 31 says, a candidate who won the primary, when he withdraws, should do that in writing, and that has been done. Section 33 says that where the candidate withdraws, that INEC the party will conduct fresh primary election. That's what it said. And so it's not looking at the moment a candidate withdraws, it is that primary election is over. You know, that's what the Electoral Act says. And it is there, and if you like, I can read it for you.
Well, Your Excellency, before we get to that one, I'm wondering what, you know, the role of INEC is in all of these, because some would be asking, how come certain names were not in the list that, that INEC presented?
I'm not an INEC official, but the INEC had no problem publishing my name. It was a matter of time. But, you know, I needed to do something to comply with Section 14 because supposing INEC, you know, have their reasons, you know, which they told me there was no reason not to publish my name, but they were going to publish my name. So I had to comply to that 14 days, you know, mandatory, you know, of the Electoral Act that you have to go to court to compare INEC. And that's what I did, based on the election of 9th. And that election of 9th was the only one that contested, you know, as far as the thing is concerned. And let me tell you something. There is a Supreme Court decision, you know, Daniel versus INEC, 2015. And it reads that a party has a right to exclude a candidate from participating in primaries, even after he has been screened and cleared to contest the primaries. And the candidate so excluded has no legal remedy against the action taken by the party. So it is the right of the party, you know, to say who and who we, you know, stand the primary election. And let me tell you, for the avoidance of doubt, those who are talking about qualification or not qualification, if you go to, you know, the Electoral Act, Section 84, subsection 3, it talks about qualification for primary election, qualification. And so I feel so bad when people come to the faces of televisions and they darken counsel without knowledge, you know. So the question is my qualification. Am I qualified to contest this primary election? And the answer is yes. And then Section 84, subsection 3, you know, is what is given who is qualified, who is not qualified. And you cannot tackle the candidature, the aspirants, based on any other thing, you know, other than the basic qualification to contest the primary election. That's what that section is talking about.
Well, Your Excellency, how about Section 115?
Okay. Great one. The Section 115, I will read subsection D. A person who signs a nomination paper or result form as a candidate in more than one constituency at the same election. So there are three issues here. A person who signs a nomination paper. The question is nomination paper of who? Is it of INEC or of party? Then the second one is result form. What is result form? Is result form the form that is being given by party? Do you define a result? Do you get a result when you have not, you know, sat for an exam? And the answer is no. So the result form here for me is the you know, certificate of return given by political parties to their candidates, you know, the candidates. Or you can define a result form when election is held and INEC gives you, you know, certificate of return. So we are not yet at the INEC level, so we are at the party level. So result form is the form that a return, certificate of return, that party will give to the candidate. And in every primary election, there are no two candidates, it's only one candidate. And so we are talking here about candidates. Now, let's go to a section that, you know, people never went to, and that is Section 152. If you have your this thing, you can now go to it, and that's the definition paper. And Section 152, he said, definition of who is an aspirant. Say an aspirant means a person who aspires or seeks or strives to contest an election to a political office, an aspirant, at the level of the party or the primary elections, everyone until primary is held, they are all aspirants. Now, let's go down and see the definition of candidate. Candidate means a person who has secured the nomination of a political party to contest an election for any elective office. A person who has secured the nomination of a political party, who has secured the nomination of a political party. And if you look at INEC timetable, and you find out that it is only INEC that give from, I think 13 EC 13A, and that EC 13A, the last day for such to happen is on 8th of August. It's still in front. So it is only INEC that, confirms who is a candidate, and they will issue a form to the party to give to the candidate to fill. So people darken this section 115 without knowledge. There is nobody who is a candidate until you have been duly nominated, according to the electoral act by the political party, submitted to INEC. INEC will now issue a form to the party to give to you, you will fill. And that is the nomination form. It only comes from INEC.
Your Excellency, there's one other word that you may want to speak to as well. You've spoken to nomination paper, you've spoken to result, and you have, of course, spoken to candidate. How about the fact in that same portion that talks about more than one constituency at the same election? It is not possible for one person to contest for presidency and to become a candidate for presidential and senatorial election at the same time in one election, or is it?
That is where the media is giving their own interpretation or bringing something into the Electoral Act. You see, this Electoral Act is the ingenuity of the lawmakers, and when they were making this, they needed to look at decided cases of the Supreme Court. And this section, what it envisaged is what happened in Imo State governorship election, where Uchenwosu became the candidate of AA and the candidate of APC. And the Supreme Court said, no, you cannot be a candidate, of two different political parties, or be two candidates, at the same time in one election. That's what it's envisaged. And so when the business of a political party is the business of a political party. You can have 20 forms, you can have 30 forms. But let me even throw light on that. The APC presidential election ended on 7th of May. And by 7th of May, there were no more aspirants. We understand. So there were no more aspirants. The time to appeal the decision of that convention had passed. And so the presidential election had been concluded. And so there was no more, aspirant. We produced a candidate. And so, clear stated this, the candidate of the party withdrew. And so you are saying that the party has no right to, do another primary. And so I bought my form on 9th of June. So there was no time I had two forms, so to say, at the same time, So when the primary had ended, and that matter is closed, and then I now came on the 9th of June and then bought a form to contest. So I was never holding two forms of political party at the same time, even to argue along your line, even though it's very unconstitutional and on the Electoral Act.
Yeah, well, Your Excellency, the thing is, trying to look at this section, I mean, you will always say that we can't, the rule of interpretation is that we have to look at other relevant sections to try and understand the intendment of the drafters or the lawmakers on this. And so I'm saying, look, that if we go to section 29 and 30, it tries to give us that understanding what they meant by nomination paper. Because, for instance, that's in 115, which you cited. Now, we understand that what usually signs by politicians is expression of interest form and nomination paper. So at the point where you do that, you are an aspirant. You don't sign that form as a candidate. And so they say that even though 115 may have been loosely drafted, but what the intention is by those who drafted is they're trying to avoid that kind of scenario wherein you pick up an expression of interest and nomination paper as an aspirant, having two separate forms in the same election. So if that were the case, isn't this narrative part of what they're trying to also avoid?
Chamberlain, we're in a very challenging moment where the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria is being terribly tampered with, and everyone comes up to give any kind of interpretation. Are you talking about what is in the Electoral Act, or you are talking about an intention? Your intention may be different from the intention of another person. So we are here to talk about what is in the Electoral Act. The Electoral Act says, as a candidate, and that's the underlying word. So has anybody purchased two nomination forms as a candidate? And the answer is no. And I'm also telling you, I'm doing an argument on two fronts, that when a primary has ended, that chapter is closed. You are no longer holding any form, of the party. That matter is closed. It's like somebody who is dead, So, and I said to you, even joining your argument, and then on the 9th, which is over 30 days, another chapter opens for primary election because the candidate withdrew. And then we joined. So what is wrong with that? So understand two things. Legally, you cannot import another definition of a candidature, as defined by the section 152. No matter how much you try, no matter how much anybody comes to this thing to shout, the law is the law. This section 152 has defined who is a candidate. And it is just the INEC who determines who is a candidate based on the primary election, the party would have held. Now, arguing along your own line, which is what the society has darkened. The society has a way of, attacking their leaders. I'm sure that if the governor, maybe Senate President and former Governor Akwa Ibom were not involved, nobody would be hearing all this. And that's why nobody ever came to go to section 152 to define who is a candidate and who is an aspirant. Chamberlain, at the level of the party, everyone is an aspirant until primary is held. And then a candidate emerges. And that candidate is still subject to the confirmation by INEC in line with the electoral law.
All right, Your Excellency, we'll go to break, but we'll be back and get more from you when we return. Stay with us.
Your Excellency, thank you for staying with us. We're still speaking with the Governor of Ebonyi State, Governor Umahi. I'd just like to find out from you if you're going to be pursuing this matter. I imagine that you'll be pursuing this matter to a logical conclusion. That's correct?
Thank you very much, my sister. Which aspect of it are you talking about my pursuing?
Well, we understand that right now there is a, just a moment. We understand that there is a nullification. You have explained the difference between a disqualification and a nullification. Apparently, you're hoping to participate in the primaries, the senatorial primaries of your party, and it's not clear from what the court is saying if you're still going to be pursuing that in the Court of Appeal.
There is something I want to leave with you, and and that will help you very much. And that is, I will read the Electoral Act, and it is very important so that you be properly informed about qualification of an aspirant. You know, section 84, subsection 3 says, a political party shall not impose nomination qualification or disqualification criteria, measures or conditions on any aspirant or candidate for an election in its constitution, guidelines, or rules for nomination of candidates for election, except as prescribed under section 65, 66. Now, section 65 of the Constitution is dealing with 65 is dealing with the National Assembly. Section 66 of the Constitution is dealing with the House of Assembly. Section 107 is dealing with the President. Section 177 is dealing with the Governor. Section 187 is dealing with Deputy Governor nomination. Now, there is no any other qualification for a candidate outside this. And if you go to section 65, you know, on this particular matter, that's qualification for you to contest, you know, as a senatorial aspirant. You will see the qualification. So anybody talking about qualification outside this section is making a very serious mistake. Now, a section of the Electoral Act says that nothing should stop a scheduled, you know, primary election. Now, the learned judge has scheduled, you know, an election. Only the appeal court can stop it. So there is no any other litigation at the lower level that can stop that rescheduled, you know, fresh primary that as pronounced by the judge from what they told me. Now, it is up to me to decide whether I'm participating or the person who won the election before is going to also come up, or any of my boys or members of my constituency will participate. So I'm not going to be telling you, my sister, on this, and I'm not going to be telling whether I'm going to appeal court or not.
Okay, so you're not going to be disclosing what your next line of action is. But just as an aside, and it's your right to withhold it if you want to. I'm sure a lot of Nigerians would have been interested to know what it is that you're going to do. But just, you know, as an aside, there are still those who are wondering, I mean, given what happened with the presidential primaries of your party, and the candidate has since been decided, he's since picked his running mate, it's not been without controversy. There's been talk as to whether or not you are supporting the decision of the party and his decision to go with the running mate that he has picked.
Hello, Mogbe, I didn't hear the. Can you hear me?
Are you supporting your party's candidate, a presidential candidate, with his choice of vice president?
Hello, can you hear me?
I can hear you clearly. Can you hear me, Your Excellency? The question I asked is whether or not you're supporting your candidate, your presidential candidate, with the choice of his vice presidential candidate.
Oh dear. Well, if you can hear us, Your Excellency, the question Mark was trying to put across is if you're supporting the candidate.
Yes, I can hear you. Yes.
Oh, great. If you're supporting the candidate of the APC with the choice of his running mate.
Yeah. Whether I'm supporting the choice of APC with the running mate.
The presidential candidate of your party with this choice of a running mate.
I want you to know that I don't know whether you can hear me.
Yes, please. Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Yeah, there is echo. Yes, when we signed our nomination forms as presidential aspirants, we all committed to supporting whoever that would emerge. And I'm a man of character, and content. And so when His Excellency Asiwaju emerged, we all committed to supporting him. So whether I'm in agreement with the choice of his running mate or I'm not, I am bound by the oath we took to support, the oath of commitment to the party, to support the party, the APC. And so I support my party in all elections.
All right, Your Excellency, we thought at least you were going to disclose some of those information to us since today is your day. But we have to thank you very much indeed for coming on Sunrise early this morning, and happy birthday.
Chamberlain, thank you very much. Let me just say one last thing, Chamberlain, if you permit me.
Okay, go ahead, sir.
Yeah, I want to say that, we should be properly informed about the Electoral Act. And when people come to the pages of the newspaper to talk, they should be, properly informed. And I've just gotten information from my boy who went to court to collect the court judgment. And the court did not disqualify me, and the court, said what the INEC lawyer told me, that he ordered for fresh election. And so the issue of Section 115 should be tied to Section 152, and that matter should be laid to rest.
All right, Your Excellency, we thank you. We do understand that, lawyers have different interpretation of the law. That's why they're lawyers, and then eventually they end up going to court to decide that matter. But thank you very much indeed, and have a great one.
Thank you, Chamberlain, thank you.
All right, so there you go. That is it today. Do we have some comments coming through today?
Lots of them. Let me take this one from Dr. Peter Diallo. It's on the abduction of a Kaduna-Abuja train passenger, saying the Abuja-Kaduna abduction is not only traumatic to the Nigerian people, but remains a huge embarrassment and humiliation to the Nigerian government. How come a one-time adjudged strongest military in Africa is currently being ridiculed by some criminals in the forest? This insecurity needs to be handled with all sense of seriousness it deserves.
I know we are running out of time, but let's take this one by Dr. Folawiyo Olajoku, who says, insurgents, bandits, or whatever name that is chosen to call them, largely operate using Okada. A ban or mechanism to regulate its usage will reduce criminality across Nigeria by 50%. They commit atrocities and make a rapid escape using this Okada.
Well, Comrade Diary says the consideration of ban on motorcycle in Nigeria by government is a welcome development, but again, what are the alternatives put in place for ordinary Nigerians to ease mobility, and also the plan for those whose daily income depends on riding Okada?
And Henry says terrorism is an evil agenda, a philosophy that banning vehicle enablement may not eradicate. Government called it small sacrifice for greater gain. I call it further emasculation of the people and manifest evidence of frustration and failure in the war against terrorism. Well, many shades of opinion, all of them valid. Thank you so much for sending them this morning. I'm Maupe Ogwin Yusuf.
I'm Kayode Okikelu.
I'm Aya Makinde. Have a wonderful day.
I'm Chamberlain, so goodbye.